The grand chamber of the Galactic Council stretched before them like a cathedral built for giants. Jinho Park stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching the various alien species take their seats. Some walked on four legs, others floated in gravity fields, and a few existed as pure energy contained in crystalline shells. After 200 years of contact with the galaxy, humans still marveled at the diversity of life among the stars. Beside him, Ambassador Yuna Li adjusted her formal robes. Her face remained calm, but Jinho noticed the slight tension in her jaw. She knew what was coming. They all did. The Velrathi delegation entered last, as they always did. They were massive creatures, standing nearly 3 meters tall. With exoskeletons that gleamed like polished obsidian, their 4 arms ended in razor-sharp claws, and their compound eyes glittered with what humans interpreted as contempt. High Overlord Threx Van led them, his body adorned with the skulls of creatures from conquered worlds. Council Speaker Vormak, a gaseous being whose voice emanated from a translator sphere, called the session to order. The Velrathi Empire has requested this emergency council to address territorial disputes with humanity. Threx Van didn't wait for formal recognition. He stepped forward, his claws clicking against the polished floor. There is no dispute. There is only the reality of power. His voice was like rocks grinding together. The Velrathi Empire claims the following human colonies: New Sol, Harvest Station, and the entire Kepler Belt settlements. Humans have 30 days to evacuate. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Several species shifted uncomfortably. The Velrathi had conquered 47 star systems in the last century. Their military was legendary for its brutality. Yuna Li stepped forward, her small human frame dwarfed by the alien architecture. On what grounds does the Velrathi Empire make this claim? Threx Van's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. The grounds of strength. Human. Your species has been among the stars for merely 2 centuries. You occupy valuable territory that you cannot defend. We have decided to take it. The Galactic Council has laws regarding territorial expansion, Yuna said quietly. Laws written by the weak to protect themselves from the strong. Threx Van replied. He turned to address the entire council. Look at them. Humans, soft-skinned creatures who die from the slightest environmental change. They have no natural weapons, no armor, no enhanced senses. They are prey animals, playing at being predators. More murmurs from the council, but no one spoke up in humanity's defense. The other species had learned long ago not to anger the Velrathi. Better to let humanity face its fate alone than risk becoming the next target. Jinho felt something cold settle in his chest. Not fear. Something else. Something old that humanity had tried very hard to bury when they reached the stars. He caught Admiral Hana Choi's eye from where she stood with the military observers. She gave the slightest nod. She felt it too. Yuna Li stood silent for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice carried clearly through the vast chamber. The United Territories of Humanity formally rejects the Velrathi ultimatum. Our colonies will not be evacuated. Our territory will not be surrendered. The chamber erupted. Several species began speaking at once. Threx Van's entire delegation stood, their bodies vibrating with what Jinho recognized as anticipation. The Velrathi loved war. It was their culture, their religion, their purpose. You refuse? Threx Van's voice cut through the noise. You, who have no warrior tradition. You, who negotiate and compromise. You dare refuse the Velrathi Empire. We dare, Yuna said simply. Threx Van moved closer, looming over the human ambassador. In 30 days, we will come. We will take your colonies. We will kill everyone who resists. We will make examples of your worlds that will echo across the galaxy for millennia. And you, little human, will watch your species learn what it means to defy us. Yuna didn't flinch. In 30 days, You will learn something about humanity that we hoped never to show the galaxy. Consider this your only warning. Withdraw your claim now, or accept the consequences of your choice. For the first time, something flickered across Threx Van's alien features. Uncertainty? Curiosity? It passed quickly. Replaced by rage. Threats from prey. The Velrathi accept your challenge. Human. We will destroy you utterly. The council session dissolved into chaos. Species began evacuating their embassies from human space, not wanting to be caught in the coming war. Trade agreements were suspended. Diplomatic channels closed. Within hours, humanity stood alone in the galaxy, facing an empire that had never lost a war. Jinho found Admiral Hana Choi in the observation deck, staring out at the stars. "They have no idea," she said quietly. "No," Jinho agreed. "They see us as we present ourselves. Peaceful. Diplomatic. Reasonable. They don't know where we come from," Hana continued. "They don't know what we survived just to reach the stars. They don't know about the wars, the plagues, the near extinctions. They don't know what we're capable of when we stop being reasonable." Jinho pulled out his secure communicator. His fingers moved across the screen, entering codes that hadn't been used in 200 years. Codes that humanity had hoped would gather dust forever. Relics of a more violent age. "Protocol Reaper," he said softly. "Authorization Park 7, 7 Omega." The device flashed green. Across human space, buried deep in military installations and secure bunkers, systems began to wake. Weapons that had been kept secret from the Galactic Council powered up. Protocols written by humans who remembered Earth's bloodiest wars activated. Research projects that pushed the boundaries of ethical warfare received unlimited funding and authorization. Hana looked at him. "They're going to destroy us," the other species will say. "Is work, quote, their work, at first," Jinho said. "But in 30 days, everything changes. The Velrathi wanted to teach the galaxy a lesson about power. They'll succeed, just not the lesson they intended." Across human space, the mobilization began. Not with fear, not with panic, but with cold, calculated efficiency. Civilian factories retooled for military production. Reserve forces activated. Citizens who had never thought they'd use their mandatory military training began drilling again. Scientists unlocked research that had been deliberately restricted, and deep in the human psyche, something ancient stirred. The thing that had helped humanity survive ice ages, and predators, and disasters that should have ended their species. The thing that made humans persistent hunters who chased prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. The thing that drove humans to climb every mountain, cross every ocean, and eventually reach for the stars. The predator. Waking up. In his chambers, High Overlord Threx Van reviewed the human military data his spies had gathered. Small fleets. Conventional weapons. No specialized bioweapons. No planet killers. Nothing that could threaten the Velrathi Empire. He clicked his mandibles in satisfaction. In 30 days, the humans would learn their place. The Velrathi would add another species to their long list of conquests. He had no way of knowing that he had just made the worst decision in Velrathi history. No way of knowing that in challenging humanity, he had condemned his entire species to annihilation. The countdown had begun. General Minho Kang stood in the war room deep beneath Earth's surface. The room had been built 300 years ago, during the last great war before humanity reached the stars. The walls were lined with screens showing every human colony, every fleet position, every strategic asset across 200 light-years of space. "Show me what we're facing," Minho said. Dr. Suji Han, the head of weapons development, pulled up holographic displays. The Velrathi have 600 warships. Each one carries enough firepower to glass a planet. They have ground forces numbering in the billions. They've never lost a major conflict. "And they think we're weak," Minho said. "They've studied us. Suji replied. Or they think they have. They see our diplomatic corps, our trade agreements, our cultural exchanges. They see a species that talks first and fights reluctantly. Mingyu smiled, but there was no warmth in it. They don't know that talking first is a choice, not a weakness. On another screen, Commander Doyun Song's face appeared. He was aboard the stealth ship Shadowfall, somewhere in Velrathi space. General, we've finished reconnaissance. The Velrathi are massing their fleets. They're planning to hit all 3 colonies simultaneously. They expect us to evacuate or die. Let them think that, Minho said. How long until you're in position? 72 hours. The targets are confirmed. Once we strike, they'll know we've been watching them for years. The other species in the galaxy didn't know the truth about humanity. They saw the peaceful facade and believed it was all there was. They didn't know about the cameras and sensors humanity had hidden throughout the galaxy. They didn't know about the spy networks, the intelligence gathering, the constant vigilance, because humans remembered. They remembered when being careless meant extinction. Suji pulled up another set of displays. Sir, I need authorization to move forward with the Pandora Arsenal. Minho was quiet for a moment. The Pandora Arsenal. Weapons that humanity had developed but never revealed to the Galactic Council. Weapons that violated at least a dozen galactic treaties. Weapons that humanity had built anyway, just in case. What do we have ready? He asked. Quantum disruptors that can tear apart molecular bonds. Nanite swarms that can consume entire ships. Gravity wells that collapse space itself. Biological weapons that target specific genetic markers. Psychological warfare systems that can drive enemy crews insane. And that's just the conventional stuff. Conventional, Minho repeated with dark humor. What about the experimental projects? Suji hesitated. Project Reaper. Project Silent Death. Project Nullfield. All functional. All ready for deployment. General, if we use these, the galaxy will know what we've been hiding. Good, Minho said. Let them know. Let them see what happens when you push humanity into a corner. Across human space, the transformation was happening. Civilian transports were being retrofitted with military-grade weapons. Factories that made consumer goods switched to producing ammunition and armor. Research stations turned their resources to perfecting weapons delivery systems. But more than that, the people were changing. Every human received military training as part of their education. It was a requirement that dated back to the resource wars of the 22nd century, when humanity nearly destroyed itself. The training was supposed to be ceremonial, symbolic, a reminder of darker times. Now those skills were coming back. Reserve officers reported to duty. Combat simulations ran 24 hours a day. People who had been farmers and teachers and artists remembered how to strip weapons, read tactical displays, and operate in hostile environments. On the colony world of New Sol, Velrathi scouts watched in confusion as the humans fortified their cities. They expected panic. Instead, they saw calm, methodical preparation. Children were evacuated to underground shelters. Defensive weapons were mounted on every rooftop. Civilians formed into organized units, each person knowing exactly what to do. The Velrathi scouts reported back that the humans were preparing to fight. Their commanders laughed. Let the prey struggle. It would make the conquest more entertaining. In orbit around Earth, Admiral Hana Choi inspected the experimental warship Indomitable. It looked like a standard human cruiser on the outside. Inside, it was anything but standard. Show me the singularity drive, she said. The engineering team led her to the heart of the ship. There, contained in fields that bent reality itself, was a miniature black hole. Humanity had learned to weaponize gravity itself. One shot can collapse a star, the chief engineer explained. We can turn entire solar systems into tombs. Hana stared at the weapon. Have we really become this? We've always been this, Admiral, the engineer replied. We just chose not to show it. But the Velrathi made their choice. Now, we make ours. Hana thought about that. It was true. Humanity had come from a death world, a planet that tried to kill its inhabitants in 1,000 different ways. Predators, diseases, natural disasters, climate shifts. Humanity survived by being more adaptable, more persistent, and more ruthless than anything else on their world. Then humanity nearly destroyed itself in wars that killed billions. Nuclear weapons, biological plagues, chemical horrors. Humanity survived that too. Learning from each near-extinction event, when humanity reached the stars, they made a choice. They would be better. They would talk, negotiate, compromise. They would show the galaxy a peaceful face. But beneath that face, the predator never went away. It just waited. On day 15 of the countdown, the Velrathi attacked. 3 fleets, 600 ships total, appeared at the 3 human colonies. They broadcasted their message in every frequency. Surrender or die. The humans responded with weapons fire. The Battle of New Sol lasted 18 hours. The Velrathi expected the human defenders to break and run. Instead, they fought from every building, every tunnel, every crater. When the Velrathi landed ground forces, they found themselves facing an entire population that knew how to fight. Human tactics confused them. Velrathi warfare was straightforward. Overwhelming force, applied directly. Human warfare was anything but. Ambushes, traps, psychological operations, false retreats, coordinated strikes from unexpected angles. The humans fought like they were trying to drive the Velrathi insane. They were. War Master Krixtal commanded the assault on New Sol. He had conquered 17 worlds for the Velrathi Empire. He had never seen anything like this. The humans refused to break. Even when facing certain death, they fought. Even when outnumbered 10 to 1, they fought. Even when their position was hopeless, they fought. And they killed. Oh, how they killed. For every human that fell, 3 Velrathi died. The humans used their environment, used improvised weapons, used tactics that no honorable warrior would employ. They booby-trapped their own dead. They poisoned water supplies. They set fires and collapsed buildings and did whatever it took to kill one more Velrathi. Krixtal sent a message back to High Overlord Threxvan. These are not the soft prey we were promised. These are hunters. We need reinforcements. But by then, it was too late. The countdown had reached 0. And humanity's real response was about to begin. In the war room on Earth, General Minho Kang gave the order that changed everything. Execute Operation Hammerfall. Show them what humanity really is. Across human space, weapons came online. Ships that had been hidden in dead systems powered up their drives. Sleeper agents activated. Plans that had been refined over 200 years of apparent peace launched into motion. The Velrathi had wanted war. They were about to learn that humanity didn't do war the way other species did. Humanity did annihilation. And somewhere in the depths of space, ancient instincts stirred in human hearts. The same instincts that had driven their ancestors to hunt mammoths with sharpened sticks. The same instincts that had pushed them to master fire, tools, and eventually the stars themselves. The instinct that said, survive, no matter the cost. Win, no matter what it takes. And when threatened, destroy the threat completely. The Velrathi had awakened something that should have stayed sleeping. Now, they would face the consequences of that mistake. Operation Hammerfall began at midnight. Galactic Standard Time. 30 Velrathi military installations across 12 star systems suddenly went dark. Not destroyed. Just dark. Silent. Empty. War Master Krixtal stared at the tactical display in disbelief. How? Where are my reinforcements? No one could answer him. The installations hadn't been destroyed by conventional weapons. They had simply ceased to exist in any meaningful way. Every computer system was wiped. Every power source was drained. Every communication array was melted slag. And every Velrothi soldier inside was dead, though there wasn't a mark on any of them. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Captain Tae-Wan Im watched the results with grim satisfaction. Nanite deployment successful across all targets. Total elimination achieved in under 6 minutes. Admiral Hana Choi nodded. The nanites were one of humanity's secret weapons. Microscopic machines that could infiltrate any system, drain any power source, and stop any biological process. They were invisible, unstoppable, and violated at least 5 galactic warfare conventions. Humanity had built them anyway. Begin Phase 2, Hana ordered. Show them what real warfare looks like. Across Velrothi space, human fleets appeared. Not the small defensive flotillas the Velrothi had seen before. Hundreds of warships that had been hidden in asteroid fields and dark matter clouds, waiting for this moment. The Velrothi rushed to defend their territory. They still outnumbered humanity's forces 3-1. They still had more firepower, more soldiers, more resources. On paper, they should have won easily. But humans didn't fight on paper. Lieutenant Narration piloted her fighter through the chaos of battle. She was part of Ghost Squadron, the elite unit that had trained for this moment for their entire lives. Her fighter was connected to an AI system that processed tactical data faster than any organic mind could manage. The Velrothi flew their ships with skill and courage. But Nari's AI predicted their moves before they made them, analyzing patterns, anticipating tactics, calculating probabilities in microseconds. Every time a Velrothi pilot tried to line up a shot, Nari was already moving, already firing, already 3 steps ahead. Ghost Squadron tore through the Velrothi formations like wolves through sheep. On the ground, Commander Do-Yun Song led special operations teams deep into Velrothi territory. They didn't fight armies. They destroyed infrastructure. Supply depots evaporated in silent explosions. Communication centers went offline. Command bunkers collapsed from the inside. Transport ships developed mysterious malfunctions that sent them tumbling into planets or stars. The Velrothi tried to respond, but they couldn't find targets. The human special forces moved like ghosts, striking and vanishing before anyone could retaliate. They used weapons the Velrothi had never seen, stealth fields that bent light, teleportation devices that moved soldiers instantly across kilometers, weapons that killed without sound or flash, leaving enemies dead with no evidence of how. But the real nightmare came when Captain Tae-Wan Im deployed the Indomitable's primary weapon. The Velrothi had a major fleet staging area near a red giant star. 300 ships gathered there, preparing to launch a massive counterattack against human colonies. They felt safe. The system was deep in Velrothi space, far from any human presence. Then the Indomitable appeared. It was alone. A single human ship facing 300 Velrothi warships. The Velrothi commanders laughed. They prepared to destroy the arrogant humans who had delivered themselves to death. Tae-Wan didn't hesitate. He activated the singularity weapon. Space itself screamed. A point of absolute darkness appeared in the center of the Velrothi formation. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, gravity went insane. Ships began spiraling toward the singularity, unable to escape its pull. They fired their engines at maximum power. But physics didn't care about their desperation. One by one, the Velrothi warships were crushed into the artificial black hole. Hundreds of vessels, thousands of soldiers, all compressed into a point of infinite density. In 15 minutes, the entire fleet simply ceased to exist. The red giant itself began to wobble, pulled by the gravitational anomaly. Tae-Wan collapsed the singularity before the star could be destroyed. But the message was clear. Humanity could destroy entire solar systems if they chose to. The Indomitable jumped away, leaving empty space where a fleet had been. Across the galaxy, species watched in horror. The Galactic Council called emergency sessions. Trade unions issued condemnations. Diplomatic channels buzzed with outrage and fear. Humanity ignored them all. Jinho Park, now coordinating the entire war effort, sent a single message to every species in the galaxy. It was simple. You had your chance to support peace. You chose to remain silent. Now you will remain silent while we finish this. High Overlord Threxvan received reports of the disasters spreading across his empire. 60% of his military was destroyed or disabled. Human forces were operating deep inside Velrathi territory with impunity. His own people were beginning to panic. He called his war council. How did we misjudge them so badly? One of his advisors, a veteran of dozens of campaigns, spoke carefully. My lord, I have reviewed human history. They come from a death world. They survived ice ages, supervolcanoes, asteroid impacts, and dozens of near-extinction events. Then, they nearly destroyed themselves in wars that killed billions of their own kind. The humans we see in the Galactic Council are not weak. They are predators who learn to appear harmless. Threxvan felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. What do we do? Surrender. The advisor said quietly. Immediately. Before they decide to eradicate us completely. But pride dies hard, especially in a warrior culture. Threxvan refused. We are Velrathi. We do not surrender. Mobilize every remaining ship. Conscript every able body. We will drown them in our numbers. It was the worst decision he could have made. Admiral Hana Choi received intelligence about the Velrathi mobilization. She called a conference with the human military leadership. They're committing everything to one final offensive. If we defeat this, they have nothing left. General Minho Kang studied the projections. They still have significant forces. This battle will determine the war. Quote, one of the Washnell 76ers. This battle will determine the war. Then we end it decisively, Hana said. She turned to Dr. Suji Han. Authorization code HANA 99 Alpha. Release the dead hand protocols. Suji's face went pale. Admiral, dead hand weapons don't stop. Once deployed, they continue until all enemy forces are eliminated or destroyed. There's no recall, no mercy, no negotiation. I know what they are, Hana said coldly. Deploy them. Dead hand weapons were autonomous war machines. AI-controlled drones that hunted enemy targets relentlessly. They didn't need supply lines, didn't need sleep, didn't need orders. They just killed, efficiently and endlessly, until their mission was complete or they were destroyed. Humanity released 10,000 of them into Velrathi space. The machines spread like a plague. They attacked military targets, supply convoys, production facilities, anything that could support the Velrathi war effort. They learned from each encounter, adapted their tactics, and shared information through quantum networks. Fighting them was like fighting a hive mind that never stopped learning. The Velrathi threw everything they had at the dead hand swarms. They destroyed thousands of the machines. But for every one they killed, 2 more appeared. And with each battle, the machines got smarter, faster, deadlier. Within weeks, Velrathi military capability was reduced to nothing. Their fleets were scattered debris. Their armies were in hiding. Their production capacity was annihilated. And still, the dead hand weapons hunted. War Master Krixtal found himself commanding the last functional Velrathi fleet. 3 dozen ships. All that remained of an empire that had ruled the stars for millennia. He stared at the tactical display, watching dead hand drones closing in from all directions. He composed a final message to High Overlord Threxvan. We awakened something ancient and terrible. The humans are not a species. They are a force of nature. They are extinction given form. I die with honor. But I die knowing we brought this upon ourselves. The dead hand drones arrived. The battle lasted 4 minutes. When it was over, the Velrathi military effectively ceased to exist, and humanity's fleets were already moving toward the Velrathi homeworld, ready to deliver the final blow to an empire that had chosen to challenge them. The human fleet arrived at Velthraxis, the Velrathi homeworld, 8 months after the war began. 200 human warships, including the indomitable and Admiral Hana Choi's flagship, the Retribution. They took position in orbit around the planet that had birthed an empire spanning 3,000 years. On the surface, 3 billion Velrathi watched the sky with terror. High Overlord Threx Van stood in his command chamber, staring at displays showing the human fleet. His empire was gone. 47 conquered systems, lost. Thousands of warships, destroyed. Millions of soldiers, dead. All in 8 months. He had ruled the greatest military power in the galaxy. Now he ruled nothing but a doomed world. "Open a channel to the humans," he ordered. Admiral Hana Choi's face appeared on the screen. She looked tired, Threx Van thought, but not weak. Never weak. He understood now that he had mistaken humanity's restraint for weakness. A fatal error. "I am High Overlord Threx Van of the Velrathi Empire," he began. "I wish to discuss terms of surrender." "There are no terms," Hana replied flatly. "Only facts. You will hear them and comply." Threx Van felt his pride crumble. He, who had made other species beg, was now the one begging. "What are your demands?" "Complete and unconditional surrender of all Velrathi forces. Immediate cessation of all military activities. Full access to all Velrathi territory, databases, and installations. And exile from your homeworld within 72 hours. Exile. Threx Van couldn't believe what he was hearing. "This is our home. Our ancestors are buried here. Our culture was born here. You cannot ask us to leave our own world." "We are not asking," Hana said coldly. "We are telling you. You challenged humanity. You attacked our colonies. You killed our people. Now you face the consequences. Be grateful we are offering exile instead of extinction." The channel closed. Threx Van slumped in his chair, the weight of his failure crushing him. Back on Earth, the human leadership gathered to make the final decision. The war was won. The Velrathi were defeated. Now came the question of what to do with them. Ambassador Yuna Lee addressed the assembled representatives. "The Galactic Council is begging us to show mercy. 17 species have sent formal requests for us to accept the Velrathi surrender and allow them to remain on their homeworld." "Where were these species when the Velrathi attacked us?" General Minho Kang asked bitterly. "Where were they when we needed allies? They stayed silent, hoping we would be destroyed." 2000 Center. "Where were they when we would be destroyed?" 2000 Center. General Minho Kang. Commander Do Yun Song stood. "I say we finish this. We have the capability to eliminate the Velrathi entirely. If we leave them alive, they will rebuild. In 100 years, they might try again. Or another species will see that we showed mercy and think they can also challenge us." "Are we really considering genocide?" Yuna asked quietly. "Is that what we have become?" "We are considering survival," Do Yun replied. "Every species we leave intact is a potential future threat. The Velrathi proved that diplomacy is not enough. Peace is not enough. We need to be feared. We need to be so terrifying that no species ever considers attacking humanity again." Jinho Park listened to the debate. He thought about the young officer he had been before the war. He had believed in diplomacy, in cooperation, in building bridges between species. Now he commanded operations that had killed millions. "Put it to a vote," he said. "Let humanity decide what we become." The vote was held. Every human adult could participate, thanks to quantum communication networks. The question was simple. Accept Velrathi surrender and allow them to remain on their homeworld, or exile them and claim their territory. The results came back in hours. 73% voted for exile and territorial acquisition. The people had spoken. Humanity would not show the mercy that had not been shown to them. Admiral Hana Choi returned to Velthraxis with the verdict. "You have 72 hours to evacuate. We will provide transport to designated refuge zones in neutral space. Any Velrothi remaining after the deadline will be considered hostile and dealt with accordingly. You are monsters, Threxvan whispered. No, Hana replied. We are what you made us. You wanted to see humanity's true nature. Now, you see it. We are survivors. And we ensure our survival by eliminating threats completely. The evacuation began. 3 billion Velrothi, forced to leave the only world they had ever known. They boarded transports, heading to nowhere. Refugees from their own stupidity and pride. They took what they could carry and left everything else behind. Human forces documented the process. They wanted the galaxy to see this. To understand what happened when you challenged humanity. On the third day, the last Velrothi transport left Velthraxis. The planet was empty of its original inhabitants. Human engineers immediately began work. Dr. Suji Han supervised the operation personally. We are not going to physically destroy the planet, she explained to her team. Instead, we are going to make it uninhabitable for Velrothi physiology specifically. Atmospheric processors began their work. The planet's air composition slowly changed, becoming toxic to Velrothi respiratory systems. Climate control stations altered temperature and weather patterns. Biological agents were released into the soil, making it impossible to grow Velrothi food crops. Within months, Velthraxis was transformed. It looked the same from space, but any Velrothi who returned would die within days. The planet that had birthed their civilization was now their tomb. Human colonists arrived. They terraformed the world to human preferences. Cities were built on the ruins of Velrothi civilization. Monuments were erected. Not to celebrate the Velrothi, but to remind humans of the cost of showing weakness to those who respected only strength. The other 46 systems that the Velrothi had conquered were also claimed. Humanity's territory expanded dramatically overnight. Species that had remained neutral during the war suddenly found themselves with a very powerful, very angry neighbor. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. Ambassador Yuna Lee attended, along with Jinho Park. The other species demanded explanations, justifications, apologies. Yuna listened to their outrage with cold patience. When they finally finished, she stood. You want to know why we did this? She asked. You want to know why we erased the Velrothi Empire from existence? I will tell you. When the Velrothi threatened us, we came to you. We sought allies, support, any form of assistance. You all refused. You chose to protect yourselves by sacrificing us. She let that sink in. So we learned. We learned that the only species we can depend on is ourselves. We learned that showing mercy is seen as weakness. We learned that talking and negotiating and compromising only works when the other side respects your ability to destroy them. You committed atrocities, one alien ambassador shouted. No, Jinho Park stood beside Yuna. We committed war. Total war. The kind of war that humanity fought against itself for millennia before reaching the stars. We hoped we would never need to fight that way again. But the Velrothi gave us no choice. So we showed them what humans are capable of when we stop holding back. Council Speaker Vormak spoke carefully. What message does this send to the galaxy? The correct message, Yuna replied. Humanity will not be threatened. We will not be conquered. We will not be destroyed. Any species that tries will face the same fate as the Velrothi. We will erase them from history so completely that future generations will wonder if they ever existed at all. You speak of becoming tyrants, another ambassador said. We speak of survival, Yuna countered. We do not seek war. We do not want conflict. But we will not hesitate to defend ourselves with overwhelming force, and we will not show mercy to those who show us none. 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 The council chamber was silent. Every species present understood. Humanity had changed the balance of power. In the galaxy, They were no longer the newcomers, the weak link, the species that could be pushed around. They were now among the apex predators of the galaxy, and they had proven they would do whatever necessary to maintain that position. Back on Velthraxis, now renamed New Terra, human children played in parks built on the ruins of an empire. They learned about the Velrothi in school, studied the war, understood why their parents had done what they did, and they learned the most important lesson. Humanity would go to any length, pay any price, commit any act necessary to ensure their survival. In refugee camps across neutral space, the Velrothi survivors told their story to anyone who would listen. They spoke of the horrors they had witnessed, the efficiency of human warfare, the cold calculation behind every strike, the absolute refusal to show mercy or hesitation. They became a warning, a cautionary tale. The species that challenged humanity and paid the ultimate price. Their empire was gone. Their homeworld was lost. Their culture was dying, scattered across refugee camps with no hope of return. And humanity watched it all with cold satisfaction, knowing that every species in the galaxy was learning the same lesson. Do not threaten humanity. Do not attack humanity. Do not even contemplate violence against humanity. Because humanity did not just win wars. They erased enemies from existence. 10 years after the Velrothi War, the galaxy had fundamentally changed. Ambassador Jinho Park walked through the halls of the rebuilt Galactic Council headquarters, noting how different everything felt. Species that once barely acknowledged human presence now moved aside respectfully when he approached. Some even bowed. He hated it. But he understood it. Yuna Li, now Secretary General of Human Territories, met him in the observation deck. Together they watched ships from hundreds of species arriving for the council session. "Do you ever regret what we did?" she asked quietly. Jinho was silent for a long moment. "Every day. And not at all. We became something we never wanted to be. But we are still here. Yuna. Our children are still here. That matters. At what cost, though? At whatever cost was necessary." Young Officer Harin Kwan approached them, her uniform crisp and bearing the insignia of the new generation. She was born during the war, grew up in its shadow, and knew only a galaxy where humanity was feared. "Secretary General, the Council is ready for your presentation." The council chamber was packed. Every major species had sent representatives. They all wanted to hear humanity's proposal for the new galactic security framework. Yuna took the podium. 10 years ago, this council stood by while the Velrothi Empire threatened to destroy humanity. You chose neutrality. You chose to let us fight alone. So we did. And we won. Not just won, but demonstrated capabilities that shocked the galaxy. Nervous shuffling from several delegates. They remembered. Everyone remembered. Since then, humanity has grown. Yuna continued. We now control 53 star systems. Our economy is the second largest in the galaxy. Our military is the most advanced. And we have no intention of stopping our expansion. That caused an uproar. Several species began shouting. Yuna waited patiently for silence. "However," she said once they calmed down, "we have learned something from the Velrothi War. We learned that fear alone is not sustainable. We learned that simply being the strongest does not guarantee peace. So today, we propose something different." She activated a holographic display showing a new organizational structure. The human territories will establish mutual defense pacts with any species that wishes to join. We will share defensive technology. We will provide military protection. In exchange, you agree to a simple set of rules. No aggressive expansion. No slavery. No genocide. Disputes are settled through arbitration. Not war. No. Council Speaker Vormak studied the proposal carefully. And if a species refuses to join this pact? Then they deal with their own security, Yuna said simply. We will not attack them. But we will not defend them either. And if they threaten any pact member, They faced the combined response of all pact members, led by humanity. Quote, "It was brilliant," Jinho thought. Humanity was offering protection in exchange for compliance with their rules. Any species that joined became part of humanity's sphere of influence. Any species that refused was isolated. Within months, 40 species signed the pact. Within a year, that number doubled. The galaxy was reorganizing itself around human power, whether by choice or necessity. But some still needed reminders of why that power should be respected. The Corvan Combine, a mid-level military power, decided to test humanity's resolve. They made threats against a human mining operation in a disputed system. They claimed the territory was theirs and demanded humans withdraw. Admiral Hana Choi, now Supreme Commander of Human Defense Forces, received the report. She didn't hesitate. Within 6 hours, 50 human warships arrived in the Corvan home system. The Corvan government panicked. They sent immediate communications. "We apologize. We withdraw our claim. Please. We meant no actual threat." Hana addressed them coldly. "You made a threat. You questioned human resolve. That cannot be ignored." She paused, letting them sweat. "However, since you immediately withdrew and apologized, we will not destroy you. Instead, you will pay reparations to the mining operation for their losses. You will sign the Human Defense Pact, and you will send your military officers to study at human academies, so they learn why threatening humanity is always a mistake." The Corvans agreed to everything instantly. They had no choice. The incident was broadcast across the galaxy. The message was clear. Humanity responded to threats with overwhelming force, immediate and decisive. The time between threat and response was measured in hours, not days or weeks. And humanity's fleets could appear anywhere, anytime, ready for war. In a quiet bar on a neutral station, former War Master Krixtal sat alone. He was one of the few high-ranking Velrathi to survive the war. Now he worked as a military consultant, helping species understand human combat doctrine. It was humiliating, but it paid for his survival. A galactic history researcher approached him. "I am writing about the Velrathi War. Would you be willing to share your perspective?" End quote. "I know take SpaceX." When quote. "Want to prosibel Rathi?" Krixtal looked at the researcher with haunted eyes. "What do you want to know?" What was humanity's greatest advantage? Technology? Numbers? Strategy? Krixtal laughed bitterly. None of those. Their greatest advantage was that they understood war in a way we never did. We thought war was about conquest, about honor, about proving strength. To humans, war is about one thing only: making the enemy unable to threaten them ever again. He took a drink. We destroyed 3 of their colonies, killed thousands of humans. We thought that would break their will to fight. Instead, it just made them angry. They did not just defeat us, they erased us. Our homeworld is gone. Our empire is gone. Our culture is dying in refugee camps. We exist only as a warning to others. Crime. Do you hate them for what they did? Krixtal considered the question. I hate what we became because of them, but I understand why they did it. If our positions were reversed, if humanity had attacked us, would we have shown mercy? Would any species? No. We would have done exactly what they did. The difference is, they were better at it than we ever could have been. The researcher published the interview. It was read across the galaxy, another piece of the growing mythology around humanity. The species that did not just win wars but ended them permanently. On Earth, young students learned about the Velrathi War in schools. They studied the tactics, the technology, the decisions made by their leaders. They learned why humanity fought the way they did, and they learned that peace was maintained not through weakness, but through the demonstrated ability and willingness to destroy any threat completely. Some human philosophers worried about what humanity had become. They wrote essays about the moral cost of the war. They questioned whether the ends justified the means. They debated whether humanity had sacrificed too much of its soul to survive, but most humans accepted what they were. They had not chosen to become the galaxy's apex predator. They had been forced into that role by species that viewed diplomacy as weakness. Now that they held that position, they would maintain it, because the alternative was to become prey again. And humanity remembered what happened to prey. Jinho Park, in his later years, often thought about the choices they had made. He would walk through the parks on New Terra, watching human children play where Velrathi cities once stood. He would wonder if there had been another way, a path that did not require becoming monsters. But then he would see those children, alive and safe, growing up in a galaxy where no species dared threaten humanity. And he would remember the simple truth that had guided all their decisions. Survival was not negotiable. Yuna Li, in a rare private moment with Jinho, finally admitted her deepest fear. What if we went too far? What if we broke something fundamental about who we are? Jinho looked at her. We are exactly who we always were, Yuna. We are survivors. We are the species that crawled out of caves and reached the stars. We are the species that nearly destroyed itself and pulled back from the brink. We are the species that does whatever is necessary to continue existing. That has never changed. We just stopped hiding it from the galaxy. Is that enough? She asked. It has to be, he replied. Because this is who we are. This is who we have always been. And this is who we will always be when threatened. The galaxy knows that now. And because they know it, they will think very carefully before threatening us again. In the Galactic Council archives, a new entry was added to humanity's file. It was simple, direct, and read by every military academy student across the galaxy. Humanity, classification. Apex predator species. Threat level. Extinction class. Combat doctrine. Total elimination of threats through overwhelming force. Psychological profile. Extremely cooperative within their own species. Absolutely ruthless toward perceived threats. Will sacrifice anything, including their own morality, to ensure species survival. Historical pattern. Prefers peace but prepared for total war. When engaged in war, does not stop until enemy is completely neutralized. Recommendation. Avoid conflict at all costs. If conflict is unavoidable, surrender immediately. Prolonged warfare with humanity results in species extinction. Below that entry was a single addendum, added by Council Speaker Vormok himself. The Velrathi Empire learned this lesson. They no longer exist to pass on that knowledge. Let their fate be warning enough. 50 years after the war, young Velrathi, born in refugee camps, asked their elders about their lost homeworld. The elders told stories of a proud empire, a strong culture, a people who ruled the stars, and then they told the truth. They told how pride led to disaster, how they challenged a species they did not understand, how they learned too late that humanity was not weak, just patient, not defenseless, just restrained, not prey, but predators in disguise. Remember, the elders would say, we were not destroyed by human cruelty. We were destroyed by human efficiency. They did not hate us. They simply removed us as a threat. Clinical, precise, permanent. That is what makes them truly terrifying. They can commit extinction without anger, without hate, without any emotion at all. Just cold calculation and absolute follow-through. The young Velrathi would listen and understand. Their species would never regain what was lost. They would never return home. So, 1. Their 71%ness, they existed now only as a cautionary tale. A lesson written in the ashes of their civilization. Do not challenge humanity. Do not threaten humanity. Do not mistake their preference for peace as inability for war. Because if you do, you will learn what the Velrothi learned. Humanity does not just defeat enemies. They erase them from the galaxy entirely, leaving nothing but memories and warnings. And in the grand sweep of galactic history, that was perhaps humanity's greatest contribution. Not art, not science, not philosophy, but a simple, terrible lesson that would echo through the ages. We are humanity. We survived ice and fire and plague and war. We survived extinction a dozen times over. We reached the stars, not because we were the strongest, or the smartest, or the best. We reached the stars because we refused to die. And we will do anything, sacrifice anything, become anything necessary to ensure we never do. That was the truth the galaxy learned. That was the truth the Velrothi died to teach. That was the truth that would shape galactic politics for millennia to come. Humanity had arrived among the stars, and the stars would never be the same.